Okay, you guys, we're doing 9.2 parabolas, but not the normal parabolas that you guys are thinking of, like y equals, the x minus h squared plus k. It's a little bit of a different format. I got to introduce to you guys a bunch of the vocabulary, because it's a new one for us. So it's going to take some time in the beginning before we actually get to some problems. Okay, so let's just do one thing. This is what you guys are used to. Hold on, let's see if I can fix that. Fine. Whatever. So you're used to seeing something, y equals, if I said a, just basic x squared, you all would tell me your parabola opens up. And then if we have y equals negative ax squared, our parabola opens down. Okay, those are our normal ones. What we also should be aware of is so this is if it's y. Think if it's y equals, it's going up and down, because and we're going to kind of talk about this today, if it's an x equals, well, that's a squared. If it's an x equals, it's going to be going left and right. If it's an x, if it's positive. And this is if it's negative. Oh my God. Okay. But we are doing it very differently. So again, let me introduce to you guys a bunch of the vocabulary, and then you have your questions. Well, I can't ask questions. Okay. So just write this stuff down. You're going to have something called a fixed line. And your fixed line is going to be called so this is the keyword, directrix. And you're just gonna see D. So I'm gonna highlight that because that's gonna be a keyword. So directrix, and then we're also going to have a fixed point. And the word for the fixed point is called focus. And you're gonna see me put an F. Important words. Okay. Then, what I want you guys to put a little star here. What they are both, and you'll see how they come into play. Both are equidistant, and equidistant means equal in distance. Both are equidistant, but you'll see what this means, opposite sides of the parabola. Again, it'll make sense in a moment. So both are equidistant, opposite sides of the parabola from the parabola's vertex. Okay? All right, so let me show you where the directrix, I'm not gonna use the word fixed line, fixed point. Let me show you where the directrix is. Let me show you where the focus is. Okay. Oh my God, I looked up and I drew that line like that. Okay, so just for example, just putting it in the middle for now, here obviously is my parabola. Here, we should know this is the vertex. You also should know and be aware that this line straight down the middle is my axis of symmetry. A little bit closer, whatever. Okay, so that line is your axis of symmetry. Now, we all know the vertex. Let's just write this down. The vertex, we could say, lies halfway between your focus, just write this, and directrix. Okay, so I told you the point. So let's just pretend this is where the point is going to go. This point is a point, so it's an X and Y coordinate, and this is our focus. The focus is a point. And what we can say, I want you guys to always be aware of this so it helps you out. It always lies in the parabola. Think your parabola is eating it. It will always lie right inside it. So that's where your focus is. Again, we're going to figure out where it is in a little while. And then what you have is the line, which is the directrix, is somewhere here, let's just say. So this line is what we call the directrix. And here's what the directrix is, just so you understand. It is perpendicular to the line of symmetry, or to the line, perpendicular to the, I should say, the axis, which is a line of symmetry. Meaning, if the axis of symmetry goes this way, it's an x equals, so that means your directrix would be a y equals. If your parabola was turned this way, the axis of symmetry would be a y equals, so then it would be an x equals. So just so you guys are aware, if you want to jot this down, the y equals would be if you drew your line like this, and the x equals, depending, and it will be a number, would be like that. Okay, so there is the directrix. Now, the next thing, so these are the most important things. The last thing I want you guys to jot down from here is I told you that both are equidistant from the vertex of the parabola. So what I need you guys to understand, this is going to help us where we can find it. Whatever this distance is, this is the same distance. So this is the distance. And what we have to make sure is they are the same. And just write this down. We're going to say it's the absolute value of P. I don't know why I put parentheses, but that's very important, that P, and because that's going to come up in our formula. The reason, obviously, it's absolute value is because we should know distance is always positive. So if I told you this was 3 up, this would just go 3 down, but it's still always positive. Okay, so that's your main stuff that we need to understand for, let's go like this. This thing is not working right now. Vocabulary. There are certain scenarios, and there are 4 of them, and I want to go through all 4 of them before we actually get to any type of question, because it'll help us out. This is just bothering me, so I'm trying to reorganize this. Okay, so that should be all on your paper. Again, your parabola, your focus is the point, it's eating it. Just know your directrix is on the opposite side. This will be the same distance. Your axis symmetry is also a line. Okay, so make sure you guys have that down. I told you guys a lot of notes to begin with. Okay, so now this next page is going to seem super, or what I'm going to write for you guys next, it's going to seem very odd, and I know it's going to be a little bit confusing, but just write this down. These are your 4 scenarios that can happen. Once we have it down, when I start to do the problems, it'll make more sense. So on your paper, I want you guys to write this. Just write this down. I know it's going to make no sense. Standard form of the equation of parabola. Today we're going to do with the vertex is going to be at the origin, just for today. Okay, so I told you again there's 4 scenarios. Obviously the parabolas can go up, down, left, and right, so I want to talk about all 4 of them and what the different values mean. Okay, so let's first do when my parabola looks like this. Okay, so when your parabola looks like that, bear with me, you should know it's a y equals x squared, as we've always done. Hopefully you guys are aware of that, right? Y equals x squared. We've always talked about that, where it was a basic, That's what you guys are used to. What I want you guys to write now in your paper is x squared, still an x squared, equals 4py. Just write that down. That's what the first one's gonna look like. I'll put you guys a little note up here. P is a variable just for right now. When we actually do the problem, it will be a value. It is a value. It will be a number, and you'll see that's what we're gonna have to find or I'm gonna give you, so just jot that down again. I told you it's a lot in the beginning of a bunch of vocabulary before I can actually get to you guys a problem. Now, if the p-value, so jot this down, this is if the p-value is greater than 0, which just means it's positive, then what you guys have, your focus is here, so this is some focus point, and then the same distance, so let's just say this distance is p, the same distance is p, this is my directrix, I'm just gonna put a D, and we should realize that you're crossing the y, so it's a y equals. So when your parabola looks like this, your focus, should left a little more room. The x is gonna be a 0 for now, and whatever the distance up, so we're just gonna write p, it's up. Your directrix, so again, this is your guide, is a y equals. Now, please understand this. Obviously, these values will change perhaps, but just write my directrix is a negative p. It'll make sense when we do the problems. These are always opposite, and I'll put that as a note for you guys. Just write it down. Okay, our next scenario. Would be, whatever. My parabola, again, is at the origin, and it's going down. If it's going down, again, we should realize it's going to be an x squared. Just write this. I know you're going to say negative, but the negative is going to happen with the p value. So just write this, 4py. Just write that down. Again, what you guys I should have highlighted this. This 4 is permanent. That 4 is a number, and it will be multiplied to the p. Again, I know this is so weird. Just wait on it. It's a lot. Okay. So that means this point here is my focus. It's a point. This distance is p, which means my directrix is up here. And this is my d, and here is my value. Again, write this down. Your focus is going to be the same thing. It's going to be 0p. And then the directrix, as I told you, it's a y equals, and it's your opposite. So y equals negative p. Here's also a hint. Listen to this hint. If the p is in the y spot, just so you understand, it's a y equals. P is in the y spot, it's a y equals. I know if you say, hey, why are these the same? The p value is going to affect this. This is just the basic arbitrary problems. You'll see how it works. All right, let me do the two left and right. So here's my parabola. Now, when my parabola goes left and right, it's a y squared equals 4px. Again, this 4 is a number. The 4 is 4, and p will be a value. So in this case, here is going to be my focus, because I told you it's eating it, and here is my directrix. This distance is p, this distance is p. Oh, sorry, I should have probably wrote this up to here. So this is when p is greater than 0. Like I said, that's why don't worry about the negative. This is when p is less than 0, and it will be calculated here. So for example, if p is going to be -3, it'll be calculated with your negative. So in this case, when it's going right, its p is greater than 0. I know this means nothing because you just have letters. Bear with it. So in this case, the focus, see how it's along here? So just think, where is the p next to? This is a hint too. The p is next to the x. So that means the p is the x coordinate. And if the p is the x, then your directrix is an x equals, and I just told you it's the opposite value. we will have numbers. But that's a hint too. Whatever letter is next to P is where the focus goes. What letter is next to P? Y, so the focus is the Y. I'm probably explaining too much now, which makes no sense to you because you don't have a problem, but oh well. So again, this is a Y square. Oh, I guess I should do the picture. So we're gonna go this way. So this is gonna be a Y squared because we're going left and right. We're still doing 4px. Now in this case, because we're going left, the P will be less than 0, which understanding that means the P is negative. Okay, so where's the focus on this one? It's gonna be on the left, and here is my directrix. This distance is P, this distance is P. One more time, your focus you can use from this because you're gonna have to always tell it from this as well. Since P is next to X, then the P is on the X, and then the directrix is an X, but it's the opposite. Okay? And then write one more thing on this piece of paper for me that hopefully you're doing in your notes. The directrix is always the opposite value, positive, negative, as the focus. So obviously I keep telling you opposites. The other thing obviously you can work with is your focus coordinate. Oh God. I don't really know what I want to write there and I want to move on so I know the video is getting long. Okay, so I know this is a lot. Just look at it for a moment and we're just going to do some examples. Really quick, some examples. I'm only going to do 4 of them, so your video is just about done, you guys. You'll now see how this comes into play because I know it means nothing. But again, what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you for your focus in the directrix, right? It's going to come from the problem. Here's how you guys can kind of figure out if the P is next to the Y, then it's the Y coordinate and the Y line. P is next to Y, the P, which is a value, is on the Y line. And again, these are opposites. If your P is next to the X, it's the X coordinate, and it's an X equals, but opposite, and so forth. Okay? All right. Well, let's see how this makes sense. So let's just, so you guys see that. Again, I know I'm doing a lot of explaining because I feel like this is a little bit trickier. Maybe I should just get right into it. Hopefully this will make sense now. Okay, so here's what the problem for your homework is going to be for tonight. Your homework is going to say, and again, we're just going to be at the origin, identify your focus, your directrix, and then I want you to sketch. So I'm just going to do 4 problems and then your video is done. Now, remember, your focus is a point. It's going to either be a 0P or a P0. That's a comma. Your directrix, okay, is going to be an X equals the, well, in this case, I shouldn't mess it up. This case, since the P is on the Y, it's going to be a Y equals whatever the opposite is. Since this is an X, it's X equals the opposite, and then we will sketch it. Okay, I know you guys are eagerly waiting. Yeah, right. Here's your first example. Y squared equals 8x. Okay, so you want to find your focus, you want to find the directrix. Here we go. What I want you guys to do, and again, use my notes, they're helpful, is when you guys are finding me the p-value and such, I want you to write the formula. So the formula is, for this case, y squared equals, like the basic one, 4px. Write this on your paper every time. Right, you're doing the y squared. So now you guys clearly can figure out the p-value. We're looking for the p-value. Well, I told you that 4 is permanent. So think about this. You have 8 equals 4p. So if I divide by 4 to solve, p is 2. Yay, you guys found the p-value. Now watch how easy this is. You want to identify your focus. I told you to do the focus first. I'm giving you guys lots of hints instead of really, I should be teaching it more. Look, the P is next to what letter? X. So if the P is next to X, then this is the X coordinate. So that means it's 2, 0. And then your directrix is, and now you follow this. This is the X coordinate, and give me the opposite value. There you guys go for your answer. And then if I'm sketching it, well, what you could do is you should know which way a y squared is going to go. A y squared is going left and right. However, if you're not sure, plot the focus. So the focus is at 2, 0, and the directrix is at x equals -2. Now think about it. Which way could your parabola go? It has to eat the focus, and it's at the origin. So here you guys go, and that's your sketching. Or again, knowing it's left and right and positive, so now it has to go right. Those are a couple different ways I wanted to explain it to you. All right, let's take a look at number 2. So write this down. I changed my mind. Let's do the x squared. I don't want to do too many examples because I know you guys will get bored. Okay, so you guys can have a couple, however you want to start it, but I want to find the focus, the directrix. So here, focus, first step, directrix, second step, sketch, third step. So write the formula, x squared equals 4py. Get that on your paper. All right, now it's okay, we can get fractions. Let's start solving. So we take -6 equals 4p to find the p. Divide by 4, divide by 4. So p equals, just simplify this, -3/2. Now stop there. P is next to the y. So this is the y coordinate. So your focus is the y coordinate, which means, and if you can see, there's your negative. There's a negative, which means now the directrix is a y and the opposite. So the opposite is a positive. There you go. Now let's sketch. You should have an idea of which way the x squared is going to go, but if you don't, plot the point, 0, -3/2, 1.5, it's fine. And then here is my directrix, which means I know my parabola is going this way. Also, you can tell your parabola is going this way because it's an x squared and it's negative, so it's going down. Hopefully you guys find that simple. Okay, number 3. We're going to do 4, and then I'll leave you alone. Okay, so watch for this one. 4x squared equals -12y. Okay, I'm going to put a star on this one, and I'm going to write you guys a note. Just like we did for circles, the equation must be in standard form. If you're like, hey, what do you mean by standard form? I mean one of these forms, x squared equals, the number 4py and y squared. So they have to be alone. So in this case, you want the x squared alone. Okay, that's pretty easy. Let's divide by 4 first. So we have x squared equals -3y. All right, and now we're back to what we were doing. Set this up again. X squared equals 4py, which means, there you go. Let's set it equal. Let's solve it. We have -3 equals 4p. Let's divide by 4. Let's divide by 4. So p equals -3/4. Now, what does p next do? It's the y, so this is your y coordinate. So let's write our focus. Our focus is a 0, -3/4 y coordinate. And then that means our directrix is a y equals, and the opposite. Again, opposite just means positive, negative. There you go. And now let's do a quick sketch. You can know which way the x squared goes, or plot 0, -3/4. Y equals, let's say 3/4. Right now it's just a sketch. And you know your parabola is sketching down. Okay, last one, you guys. 4. All right, so we have 2y squared plus 8x equals 0. All right, so let's just, can't really get over there, but all right. Again, this is not standard form. So standard form, I want y squared something alone. So first let's move the 8x over. So we have 2y squared equals negative 8x. Don't lose your signs. It's obviously very important. Okay, and then we're going to divide by 2. So we have y squared equals negative 4x. Okay, here we go again. That's your form. So let's write it. Y equals 4px. Get that formula there. Sorry if it's shaky. I'm trying to hold it. And there you guys go. Oops, that was my finger. Okay, so let's set it equal. Negative 4 equals 4p. Divide by 4, divide by 4. We get p equals negative 1. All right, here we go. P is next to the x, so this is your x. So my focus is negative 1, 0. Your directrix is an x, and give me the opposite. Hey, it's like I'm teaching myself again. I think it's pretty simple as long as you understand it. That's why I had to teach you the first thing. All right, you can know what the y squared equals. So remember, you need this is your standard, or just plot. Negative 1, 0, x equals 1, and you're eating the focus. And there you guys go. That's what you would have for all of these. Again, I know the lesson was pretty long, but it was an intro. Please understand, again, knowing which way the parabolas go, knowing that the focus is always being eaten. Oh my God. Knowing that your directrix and the focus are opposite. Use this as a hint. It's very, very helpful. Whatever the P is next to is what the coordinate's going to be. And I highly recommend, again, highly recommend doesn't mean anything for you guys. You should write your basic formula down as a visual so you always know how you're solving for P. All right, I know it's a long lesson. Sometimes you guys know that happens in the beginning, especially when you're first learning it. All right, you guys, hopefully it was good, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.